Just explain to us what it was like in court today. This has become the dominant conversation today, the fact that Letby was not there while these statements were read out and indeed while the judge delivered sentencing remarks. What was it like to be in there?
I mean, I think that was the first thing that people were talking about when I turned up this morning at Manchester Crown Court, which is kind of just behind Deansgate, the shopping bit of Manchester. And the press pack were outside, Sky News was outside, and everybody was saying that they thought that Lucy Letby was in the building. I've since confirmed that she was taken from where she's been staying on remand in a prison. She was in the court building. She refused to come up from her cell. So when we were in the inside courtroom number 7, it was absolutely packed, emotionally charged. I was in the annex where all the media had been kind of put to report on it, and it was harrowing. For 2 hours we heard, mother after mother, father after father, basically saying how their lives have been ruined. Mothers who had breakdowns. There was one mum who said she was so traumatized that she had a car crash. After what had happened, there was a dad who said he made an attempt on his life again in a car. He drove into a building. There was another mum. It really struck me that the one piece of comfort that she had after her baby died in the hospital was a sort of a piece of jewellery that she wore around her neck, and it was a handprint made from a handprint of her baby. That handprint, she learned later, was made by Lucy Letby. So she didn't even have that. And she was just talking about just the utter trauma that this has created, mothers and fathers who struggle to emotionally have that connection with their own children, or they're too overprotective now. And, it really was. I was sitting next to reporters who, have reported court case after court case with some of them, murders and everything else. And, one of them was literally in tears. Eyes welling up, because it was just relentless, and I think hearing from the families in that way for the first time, it really does show the scale of it. I think the person that you had on who was interviewed earlier was exactly right. There's a risk of it being a number rather than what it is. This is family after family, this scale of offending. I've never seen it ever. In my career, I've came in slightly after Harold Shipman. I think we've not seen anything like that scale since him. But then, even when at midday, when the judge was about to sentence, everybody's eyes are kind of on the glass dock at the back of the court where she sits, and she sat for 9 months in this glass box with 2 female kind of security guards on either side of her. And we've seen her like laughing and joking with them at times, and kind of things like that. So quite a relaxed relationship with those people in the dock. And they came up, those 2 security guards, at midday. They hadn't been there in the morning, and they came up and they were sat there in the dock. And even then, people were thinking, is she going to be brought up? And then, of course, she wasn't, and the judge basically just had to deliver his sentence to an empty dock, which I think is quite rightly causing a lot of debate. Is it right, and what do you do?
Yeah, it does feel as well, David. There is this sort of ongoing dilemma, I think, around, as you say, it has rightly and understandably caused a lot of debate, that empty dock and the fact that Letby did not appear. And in some ways, even having the debate feels like it makes the point that actually it was one last power play from one of the worst criminals this country's ever seen.
It's a difficult one because having a lot. I mean, I've got a lot of experience of courts, and I've seen courtrooms turn not into a circus, but when you've got a defendant who is not cooperative
Mm.
in the dock, that can cause real problems. You know, when they're shouting out things, when you get into crucial moments in the judge's remarks and they're screaming, "I'm innocent," and swear words and all sorts of things. You know, I have seen that,
Mm.
and there is a risk. I do think when you think it through, you know, naturally and emotionally, we there was a natural response to Lucy Letby, get her in the dock. Why shouldn't she face the families in that moment? Why shouldn't we get justice? But I think there's also a kind of there's the flip side of the coin. I'm not saying with Lucy Letby, I'm not sure she's quite that sort of character. She's more kind of the strange thing about Lucy is Letby is that she's quite shy you know, her crimes were cunning, they were subtle, but people, her friends and people around her, described to me socially as quite shy and socially awkward. So I'm not sure we would have had a huge scene,
Mm.
but I think if you change the law to make it a blanket, let's force this person into the dock, there is a risk of it becoming a kind of basically descending into like a circus.
Yeah.
But so it's a difficult one. You
Yeah.
know, I think I'm not really sure what the answer is.
No, and that's fair enough, David. It's something that requires a lot more examination, I suppose, from here on out. And it sounds like the government's edging towards saying, "Look, we're gonna compel those who have been convicted to show up." But I mean, they have said that in the past as well. But it's something we'll discuss a bit later on. One other thing I just wanted to ask David is around actually where things go from here, because there are
Mm.
sort of suggestions that further investigations are going on into potentially more babies that may have been harmed by
Yeah.
this particular nurse, which is just a staggering thought when you, as you say, have witnessed the scale of this and described the scale of it to us this afternoon. But this might not actually be it.
Well, I think that the police. I mean, the police briefings I've attended, Cheshire Police's briefings on Operation Hummingbird, have always said that this is phase one.
Mm.
They've been quite clear on that they are committed to investigating her whole footprint, which means every working day she was in the NHS, which covers two separate hospitals, Liverpool Women's and the Countess of Chester Hospital. Today, the Times is reporting, based on a Guardian report, that the police are looking at 30 more babies who suffered mysterious collapses at the Countess of Chester Hospital, where Lucy Letby was on shift. So you're starting to see the scale now.
Mm.
You know, that's 30 more, and then you're looking at a number of further cases, although the police haven't disclosed how many, but they are saying they're supporting a number of families who they believe have been affected by her actions at Liverpool Women's Hospital. So I mean, the the problem with her crimes are, like I say, they were quite subtle. That you're talking about very small adjustments to small children in a neonatal ward, uh, which were disguised. So I suspect, well, we will never truly know. A bit
Mm.
like Harold Shipman, the exact number, the exact scale of her offending,
Yeah.
because it is so difficult to gather the evidence for each case, but they are looking at 30 further ones at the Countess of Chester, and we may see another trial.
Gosh.